It's going to take away the jobs of those people who do not adopt it.
The biggest misconception is that AI is a technology challenge. Companies invest heavily in new platforms and AI capabilities, only to find that very little actually changes. Technology in itself doesn't change behavior, right? People change behavior when they trust to change. I've seen organizations with modest technology outperform those with much bigger investments simply because their culture enabled to change. AI doesn't transform organizations, but people do.
Welcome back to the Culture Code. I'm your host, Sreyasi, and this is a show where we decode the invisible forces that shape how organizations work, grow, and ultimately succeed or fail. We talk to the leaders who are rewriting the rules not by chasing trends, but by understanding what actually makes people and businesses stick. Today, I'm joined by Nicole Niemann, an international transformation leader with over 20 years of experience helping organizations navigate digital transformation, organizational change, and AI adoption. Throughout her career, Nicole has worked with global organizations including BMW, Mondelez, P&G, NEOM, and Ideal Standard, partnering with senior leadership teams to deliver complex transformation projects across international markets. Most recently, she spent 5 years at Monk's, part of S4 Capital, where she helped clients navigate one of the fastest periods of AI adoption the industry has seen. Today, she's the founder and managing director of Forge, a strategic transformation and digital advisory business based in Dubai, helping organizations bridge the gap between strategy and execution. Nicole believes that while AI is changing how organizations operate, successful transformation has always been about leadership, culture, and people. Nicole is from the Netherlands, and I would like to welcome Nicole to the Culture Code today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
So, Nicole, we are really excited to have you here. And without further delay, let's just dive into the questions.
Let's do it.
So, Nicole, you've worked with organizations through this decade's biggest technological shifts. You've seen what happens, in different boardrooms. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions about AI transformations?
I think the biggest misconception is that AI is a technology challenge. I don't think it is. It's a leadership challenge. Technology is evolving in an incredibly pace, but organizations don't transform because they buy better technology. They transform because people change the way they work. So I've seen companies invest heavily in new platforms and AI capabilities, only to find that very little actually changes. Not because the technology wasn't good, but because people didn't understand why the change was happening or how it would help them. If leaders don't create that clarity, people naturally go back to what they know. For me, successful AI adoption or adoption of any platform has always started with people. Technology enables transformation, but people make it happen.
I completely agree with you. I think in any organization, people are the spinal cord or they are the heart of anything that we do. So I completely second your thoughts. Now moving on to the next question. So Nicole, through your entire career history, you have implemented AI. You've rolled up your sleeves and you've implemented AI. You've moved AI from just a theoretical conversation to a real world implementation. So what do you think are those factors which actually make the implementation part of the operational rhythm?
The organization that succeed, in my opinion, they don't start with AI. They start with a business challenge. Very often, the conversation begins with how can we use AI instead of, or the better question is, what problem are we trying to solve? What are the objectives? What are CEOs keeping up at night? Is it improving customer experience? Helping people make better decisions? Is it reducing repetitive work? Creating capacity for higher value activities? Or once you're clear on the problem, AI becomes an enabler rather than the objective. The second difference is leadership. The organizations making a real progress don't delegate AI to the technology function. Their leaders are actively involved. They ask questions, they use the tools themselves, and they create permission for others to experiment without expecting perfection from day one. And finally, they recognize that transformation isn't a project with a finish line. It's a capability, really. And for me, technology will continue to evolve, so organizations need to build the ability to learn continuously, adapt quickly, and bring people with them every step of the way. The businesses that embrace that mindset won't just adopt AI more successfully, they're better prepared for whatever comes next.
I completely agree with you when you say that leaders need to roll up their sleeves and need to do it themselves. Because in my experience, I have seen that organizations sometimes invest millions of dollars into implementing large scale technology projects. And it boils down to that one person who knows it all. And that is such a big succession planning challenge for any organization, because if that one person leaves, then there is a huge risk of the entire implementation moving back to square one. So it's very important that training happens across all levels. And I think that training also helps people to open their mind, accept that transition in a much more better fashion. Whenever we do change management, any kind of change management, it could be a technology change, it could be a policy change, there's a lot of resistance. And I think that training is very important across all levels, and not just the ground level staff who ends up doing it all, but also the leadership embracing it, working through the technology, using it on a day-to-day basis is very, very the need of the hour, so to say. So I completely agree with you on what you talked about, leadership embracing the AI adoption and the AI change management that needs to happen in organizations.
100%. And also, I think it's important to demonstrate the meaningful business value. So it's on the one hand, it's leadership, but also too many organizations are measuring activity instead of impact. And it's very easy to say you've launched an AI initiative, but it's much harder to demonstrate that you've reduced cost or improved customer experience, increased productivity, or generated new revenue. So I've always believed that transformation should be measured by business outcomes, not by how much technology you've implemented. AI should never become the objective. It should help the organization achieve its objectives. It's always a means to an end, not the other way around. And when organizations lose sight of that, AI becomes another innovation program that creates excitement for 6 months before people move on to the next trend. And I fully agree with you as well that training is a huge part of that. I've done an adoption program within NN Group, which is one of the biggest insurers in the Netherlands. And we trained different teams just to make them aware of the benefits, what was in it for them.
Yeah.
And once they see that, that is the moment where they shift and are ready to adopt whatever you put in front of them. Obviously, it has to make sense.
No, I agree with you, because there has to be that personal buy-in whenever there is any change that's happening in the organization, especially which comes with AI. Now, there is a very big misconception that AI is going to take away jobs. And I think that is where training is very, very important, wherein people need to understand that AI is not going to take away jobs, but it's actually going to enhance their jobs. It's going to take away the jobs of those people who do not adopt it. So I agree with you on that adoption point, that people need to learn, people need to adopt. So we have spent time talking about AI adoption in the digital transformation space. What do you think are the biggest barriers of AI adoption and digital transformation as a process?
I think this doesn't only apply to AI adoption, but let's say digital transformation adoption in general. I think the biggest misconception, if we talk about AI, is that people resist AI, but they don't. They resist uncertainty. So whenever organizations introduce a significant change, people naturally ask themselves three questions: Why is it happening? What does it mean for me? Will I still have a role in the future? And if leaders do not answer those questions properly, people are going to create their own narrative. So, and that's usually driven more by fear than facts. The second barrier you could see is culture. Technology evolves incredibly quickly, and culture doesn't. So I've seen organizations invest millions in not only AI, but digital platforms in general, while expecting people to change overnight. And obviously, it simply doesn't work like that. So if people don't feel safe asking questions and trying new ways of working or making mistakes while they learn, adoption slows dramatically. And the organizations that succeed aren't necessarily those with the most advanced technology, but they're the ones that create a culture where learning is encouraged, curiosity is rewarded, and people feel like they're part of the journey rather than having to change, which is imposed on them. I also think that ultimately AI doesn't transform organizations, but people do.
So, Nicole, alongside your executive career, you've also spent a lot of time mentoring young professionals. And you have seen it from two lenses. You've seen it from a lens of a experienced executive corporate life, and then you have also seen it from the another lens of a fresher or a young intern or a someone who is into 1 to 3 years of experience, looking at it in terms of AI adoption. So, what did you see are the differences between the different generations?
It's they definitely approach it a little bit differently, but also I think that's actually where the opportunity lies. Many younger professionals are naturally comfortable experimenting. They don't really carry the same assumptions about how work has always been done. On the other hand, experienced professionals bring judgment, commercial understanding, and also context that AI simply can't replicate. So the best organizations don't choose one over the other, but they combine them. And curiosity needs experience, right? So experience benefits from fresh thinking. And I've seen exactly the same principle throughout my own career, working across different countries, cultures, but also leadership teams. Often being one of relatively few women as well in senior transformation roles, that has reinforced my belief that diversity of thought isn't simply about representation. It's about making better decisions. The strongest teams I've worked with, which challenged each other because they brought different perspectives to the table, and that worked really well. So I don't believe it's about diversity for the sake of diversity. It's about solving problems more effectively and collaborating, but having different views on things will only make you smarter, and together you can support the solutions that you come up with. I still think that it takes diverse human perspective to ask the right questions, and I think it's going to become one of the biggest competitive advantages organizations can build. So that's my perspective.
I completely agree with you. And in fact, I do feel very privileged and grateful to be, working in this part of the world, especially UAE, where we have seen the promotion of diversity and inclusion right from the senior leadership level, right from the government to senior leaders. And especially with Emiratization, now we do see the inclusion of women in every layer of management, and I think UAE has done an incredible job at that. And I definitely feel that this inclusion and this level of promotion of female founders or senior leaders in the government, in different government organizations, as well as in different corporates, will definitely bring better adoption of technology, better digital transformation, better thoughts on inclusivity, and last but not the least, pay parity, which is, I think, talked about topic across the world, and I definitely feel some of these measures will bring a huge impact to this region.
No, I fully agree, and I strongly believe that different perspectives will, like I said, it will help grow the team, the organization itself. It will give you, different views to look at a challenge that you have at hand. So it's definitely a good thing. I can't relate to the past. I've just moved here like a month ago, so for me, curious to see. But I've seen so many female initiatives already in the past month that I've been here. That I think they're really looking at it, bringing more female perspective into things, and especially within the digital or IT sector.
So, Nicole, you've moved from London, and you are Dutch by nationality, and you yourself bring in so much diversity of thought, and you've worked across so many different countries, and now you've recently moved to the UAE. So, how do you think, things are in the UAE compared to the rest of the world? How are we doing in each of these parameters in terms of digital transformation, in terms of AI adoption, in terms of promoting diversity into the workforce?
To start with your first question, the one thing I have noticed is that the region has a vision, and they just go and do it. In Europe, it's very much about we have an idea, and then regulations need to come into place. First, everyone needs to talk with everyone, especially within the EU. And I think that's one of the advantages this region has, the UAE, and probably more the GCC in general, is they have a vision, they go about it, and they do it. Now, I've been here 20 years ago, and if you see the change from 20 years and now, it's incredible. It's mind-blowing. So I'm keen to see, what kind of opportunities lie here, but I truly believe they have a vision and they go after it, and I hope to be part of that.
I think very well said. Recently, the government introduced a new initiative called the Dubai It initiative, and I think it talks all about exactly what you mentioned. And I also happened to read somewhere wherein they mentioned that everybody across the world envisions an idea of a brand. Dubai is the only place where they go and execute it. And what we see today in terms of the landscape, in terms of the business environment, in terms of the policies that the government has done, I think all of it fits into that bracket that Dubai does not just talk, but it also converts into action. And this is the right environment to thrive and grow. And now you are, an entrepreneur yourself. You're a managing director of Forge, and I'm sure Dubai is going to be wonderful for you, and you're going to scale new heights in this country.
I hope so. That's why I came here. No, but you can feel the energy, and like I said, I've only been here for a month, but the energy and the people, they just want to go and do it. It's not just talk. Like they have ideas, like you said, and they execute it. I've seen in Abu Dhabi now they put funds to become the first society culture, and I think that's amazing. It's not just, and within the next 2 years. So we're not talking 10, 15 years. No, in the next 2 years. Dubai wants to be the Silicon Valley of the Middle East, I think. And they're building on those initiatives, and they're inviting people to think with them and participate and collaborate. And I think that's great. So let's see where it's gonna end.
So, coming to talking more about digital transformation, we have seen that companies invest millions of dollars, they implement a new technology, and the same thing is happening with AI. All companies are investing money into adopting AI. And we have seen that initially, when the implementation is done, everybody is very excited and they go and they want to embrace it. But after a few days, people forget about it and go back to old ways of working. So, technology adoption and human behavior are two different paradigms. It's very, very difficult to change human behavior. What do you think organizations can do to create a lasting impact or can change human behavior which lasts through entirety and not just a short term adoption?
It's a. I think again, habits are incredibly, powerful, and especially when people are under pressure, they naturally go back with what feels familiar, or what they've done in the past. That's human nature. Technology in itself doesn't change behavior, right? People change behavior when they trust the change and understand the value and believe it will be supported while learning. And this is coming back to the previous comment I made, is if they see what's in it for them, then they will more likely adopt, a new way of working or whatever technology you put in front of them. So sometimes organizations overestimate the role of technology, but underestimate the role of culture. And culture isn't defined by the values, written on the wall, or the instructions, the manuals you get whilst implementing a new platform. It's defined what leaders consistently encourage. So do people feel comfortable saying, I don't know? Are they recognized for experimenting? Do leaders use the same tools they're asking everyone else to adopt? Those small behaviors shape culture far more than any communication campaign ever could. So I've worked with organizations using almost identical technology, but achieving completely different outcomes. And the difference wasn't really the technology or the platform that you're implementing. It's the environment where people are working in, and to what extent you let them, experiment and make mistakes as well. And when curiosity becomes part of the culture, people keep learning. So when learning becomes normal, transformation becomes sustainable, and that's ultimately the goal you would like to achieve, right? So it's not just simply adopting AI, it's building organizations that are capable of continuously adapting to whatever comes next. So that's how I believe you can change behavior.
Well said. So, Nicole, again, talking about your experience, you worked in government backed organizations and you've also worked in private organizations. And both of these entities, they have very different styles of operating.
Yes.
How do you think, how would you like to qualify the difference between ways of working between these two organizations, especially when it comes to digital transformation and all the latest technological changes that are happening? And is there a way that both these entities can work together and learn from each other?
I think the biggest difference is often the definition of success. So, in the private sector, organizations are typically driven by commercial outcomes, growth, customer experience, efficiency, competitive advantage, obviously. And government organizations often have a much broader responsibility. So, they're thinking about citizens, long term economic development, and social impact. But I believe despite those differences, successful transformation follows many of the same principles. You still need a clear vision. You still need alignment across the stakeholders. You still need people to understand why change is happening and how they'll contribute to it. And one thing I think the private sector can learn from the government is the importance of thinking long term. Some of the most ambitious transformation programs I've been involved with weren't designed around quarterly results, right? They were long term, so that is a big difference. But also they were designed around a vision for the next decade. Equally, if you look at government organizations, they can often benefit from the pace, agility, and commercial focus that many private businesses have developed. Yeah, you can see a difference in pace that organizations run along. The organizations that will succeed in the future won't be those that choose one approach over the other. It's the ones that combine the long-term vision with disciplined execution. And I truly believe that agility is key in that respect.
So, during your tenure with your past organizations, and I'm not going to name any of those organizations, you've really turned around underperforming accounts and redesigned operating models and change their path. I want my followers to understand today that where is it that one should start, when it comes to transforming businesses from day one.
I think one of the key elements in that is listening. So my first instinct is actually not to look at technology, but it's to listen to the team, to how things are being implemented, how decisions are being made, how teams interact together, and when work gets stuck. So those are the key symptoms I'm looking at. And every organization has symptoms, right? Projects running late, costs are increasing, or you can't deliver within time or within budget. But those are usually symptoms that than the real problem. So the real challenge often sits with something else. It could be teams that are not aligned around the common objectives, or you do not have the right team in place. Maybe decision making is too slow. That can slow down the process and frustrate delivery. There's too little accountability. Or perhaps people are simply working incredibly hard within a system that no longer supports the business. So the first thing I try to do is always try to understand the operating model before proposing solutions. And if you solve the wrong problem, even the best technology won't deliver, the outcome that you're after. So for me, transformation starts with understanding the business, the people, not implementing another tool.
So, coming back to AI, and I know that we've gone back to AI several times during this discussion. We often hear about AI as a vision for many organizations, but when it comes to day to day implementation, things are very, very different. So, take us through a time when you've done an AI implementation in an organization, and how does a day to day reality look like when we move away from the presentations and we are simply doing that? We roll up our sleeves and we are doing delivery only.
Well, I think it's a lot less glamorous than people think initially. Successful AI adoption isn't one big moment. It's like hundreds of small improvements, little steps that you take.
Yeah.
It's removing repetitive tasks so that people can focus more on valuable work. It's helping teams to make faster decisions because they have better information. It's also improving collaboration because knowledge is easier to access. So technically, it's giving people time back. And for me, the technology itself becomes invisible in that respect. It's more how you use it and what you do with it. And what people notice is that work becomes easier. And obviously, that is one of the objectives that we have. Organizations that succeed don't ask people to completely renew or reinvent the way they work overnight. They introduce change incrementally, and also people experience the benefits. So in that respect, confidence grows and adoption increases. If you can showcase, that they can work more efficient and quicker, it will help them, in adopting tools. I've learned that people rarely change because they're told to. It's because the experience they get is something better than they had before, and this is why they are keen to keep working with it.
I completely agree with you. I think the first step is to remove that mental barrier and really see that how is this adoption improving my day-to-day productivity, or is it helping me save time, or is it helping me get flexibility, or is it helping me get visibility into my work or the impact that I'm making to our organization. I think once people see that, any kind of adoption becomes very, very easy. And I completely second your thoughts.
100%. And the good thing at Monks, for example, they took the different teams individually and looked at, their day-to-day work and see where, how can we make what you need to do easier by using AI. So, for example, for let's say a business, we call it a business monk. Obviously, you're dealing with clients. You want to know what are their competitors doing. Are they being talked about outside? Where can we tap into that? So they created a tool that we could tap into, and we get an email every Monday stating or having an overview of the different businesses and what was happening, but also which capability within the company could we connect to the challenges that your clients were having. So I think it's a very good example of looking at how can you optimize your workflow. First, what are the challenges, and then bring in AI wherever it's needed and not the other way around.
So, Nicole, over the last 20 years, you have done so many digital transformations, and now we are in the era of agentic AI, where AI is working as agents, means that it is working alongside people to execute the work in a much more productive way. There is a constant conversation about what are the human elements which will really remain in the next 5 to 10 years in an era of AI. Where do you see this balance going, and what is your opinion on it? Human versus agentic AI.
Well, obviously, everything is hard to predict because everything is changing so quickly. But I don't believe we're moving towards a future where AI replaces people as a whole. I think we're moving towards a future where people who embrace AI will outperform those who don't.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest difference. The routine, repetitive, and data intensive work will increasingly be automated. And that's a good thing. It creates space for people to focus on, different things humans are good at. Building relationship, making complex decisions, thinking creatively, showing empathy, exercising judgment. So I believe those capabilities become more valuable as technology becomes more capable. And in that respect, I don't see AI replacing leadership. I see it raising the standard of leadership. That's a different topic, but because when information becomes available to everyone, what differentiates organizations won't be accessing to or have the access to technology. It will be how well leaders create clarity, purpose, and direction in that respect.
I definitely can't seem to get over AI today, and it should be that way. AI as a vision is something that is a topic of discussion in every boardroom. And yet, I know organizations today are struggling to implement that AI vision into a reality. What, according to you, are the questions that the board should be asking in this discussion? And what are the mistakes that a board should definitely avoid while setting this AI vision for the next 10 years?
Well, I'm happy you're asking me that question because I believe that a lot of organizations come with the fact, oh, we want to use AI. So it's not so much about what are the challenges, what are the objectives.
Yeah.
It's about we want something with AI. They want it yesterday, so it has to be quick, but they don't know themselves where to implement it. So the first conversation shouldn't be what can AI do? It's what kind of organization do we want to become? AI is an enabler. It isn't a strategy. And the second mistake is measuring activity that instead of the outcomes, right? Launching pilots, buying technology, creating innovation teams. Those things are relatively easy, but the harder question is to what extent or how has it improved our organization? And I think that's key in this. Have we made better decisions? Did it improve customer experience? Did it create new opportunities for growth? Are new capabilities being developed? If the answer is no, then it doesn't really matter how advanced the technology is, really. And finally, I think boards need to ask a question that goes beyond AI itself. That should be, are we building an organization that's capable of continuous change? Because AI won't be the last disruption we face, right? We had the internet, we had online digital, now it's AI. I believe that organizations that succeed won't simply adopt AI. They'll build the capability to adapt, learn, and then evolve continuously. I believe that's much more sustainable, but also it will become a competitive advantage.
I also feel that one discussion the board definitely should be having is on AI governance. And I think that is a lesser talked about topic. Everybody is talking about AI implementation, but there are so many ifs and buts around AI implementation. One thing that shouldn't be skipped out of the board's agenda is AI governance, AI compliance, data privacy, safety around the cyber security aspects of AI, how data leakages shouldn't happen. I think the entire governance infrastructure is something that is very, very less talked about. And I think that is something definitely every board should be having a discussion during an AI implementation.
100%. And it also differs obviously what kind of business you have, right? If you are in the business of launching new products,
Yeah.
you need to be mindful, careful where you use AI, because before you know it, that new product is being launched whilst it's officially not launched yet. So you need to be really, really mindful. Yes.
Okay, so moving on to the end of the podcast, and if I have to reflect about the conversation that we have today, one theme stayed throughout. We talked a lot about digital transformation, we talked a lot about AI, but I think people and culture were at the center of it all. And that is precisely the theme of today's podcast as well. So, one last note from your side to our listeners: what would you like the leaders to remember about culture, people, and technology overall?
Well, thank you for asking that. I think it's a good question. First of all, I would tell them not to start with AI or technology as a whole, but start with the people. Technology is only ever part of the solution. It's not an objective in itself. And I think the real transformation happens when people understand why change matters. They feel equipped to contribute, but also they believe that they're building something better together. And I've seen organizations with modest technology outperform those with much bigger investments, simply because their culture enabled the change. And that comes back to the agility topic that I mentioned before. I also seen the opposite. So brilliant technology fail because nobody truly embraced it or adopted it. And for me, transformation has never been about implementing systems. It's all about creating alignment, creating ability, bringing together people, technology, and business strategy around one shared objective or a couple of shared objectives. So when those things are aligned, AI or technology in itself becomes an accelerator, right? And when they aren't, it simply exposes the gaps that already existed. So if leaders can remember one thing, it's what I would say: technology will continue to evolve, and people will always determine whether transformation succeeds. So for me, people and leadership is key in that respect.
So, thank you, Nicole, for joining us in the Culture Code episode. It was an absolute pleasure to have you in our show today. To all our listeners, if you have enjoyed listening to our conversation, I would request you to leave us a review in our comment section, like and subscribe our channel, and stay curious, stay human. Thank you very much for watching us.